Hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Big 12 podcast. Today, it is January 31st, 2022. On the show today, we discuss the news that Jaxson Dart is committed to Ole Miss. He is now enrolled, not just committed, he is enrolled at Ole Miss, and what that means for some Big 12 schools and future Big 12 school, in particular BYU, that was in on him. Also, we talk about Caleb Williams' watch as that continues and kind of break down that process. Did not touch on the news that Derek Mason is going to be the next defensive coordinator at Oklahoma State. So we'll get to that as well and look ahead to tonight's Big 12 basketball game. So busy show coming up today. Hope you all enjoy.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here once again, Locked On Big 12 podcast. If you guys have not yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do. We have videos all the time for all the teams. We've got team-specific videos. We've got general videos. We talk football, basketball. It's actually going to have a little bit of Big 12 baseball coming up here this week, too. A little look ahead for some star players in that. But all this Big 12 content you guys can find Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, and also please subscribe once again on YouTube. Trying to grow the channel. We're approaching 600. My goal here is to get to, hopefully get to around 1,000 before we hit the NCAA tournament. So we can keep this thing rolling. Tell your friends about it. Appreciate you guys subscribing. Always love the comments. Gives me inspiration for some of the stuff that we talk about. Gives me a feel for what you guys like, don't like, especially also too when you guys like the videos. That lets me know what kind of content you guys want to keep seeing. Follow us on Twitter at LOBig12. You can follow me personally at Josh Neighbors _. All right, the first piece of news that we have here came over the weekend. Jaxson Dart has enrolled at Ole Miss. That's one key thing here is that now in the age of all these transfers, we need to make sure the kid's enrolled. And this has actually always been a thing too in recruiting, but just because a kid is committed does not mean he is enrolled, i.e. Dylan Gabriel, right? Committed to UCLA for a long time, did not enroll there. Once Caleb Williams said, I'm going to transfer, then he flipped basically immediately and decided to commit and then enroll at the university, at Oklahoma, University of Oklahoma, OU. He ends up enrolling at OU. So that's a very key factor here. But Jaxson Dart was somebody that in the beginning we thought TCU would be in on him. Oklahoma, we know, was in on him. He visited there. Future Big 12 school BYU was involved as well. He ultimately picks Ole Miss. And once again, the kid's got right to pick wherever he wants, but for me, I think this is a great move for him. He had a pure air raid coach last time around with Graham Harrell. That's where he comes from. Now he goes to the Baylor air raid, which I think their offenses are a bit different. I'm not positive, but I assume they're a bit different. But not able to master Graham Harrell's offense. Graham goes to West Virginia. He was only there with Jaxson Dart for a short period of time playing there. Now gets to go to Ole Miss, where good coach in Lane Kiffin, good offensive mind that we know. I know they lose Jeff Lebby, but still good offensive mind. Also, the competition in that conference is very good. There should be some QB competition. We'll see what happens with Luke Altmaier, who looked like the heir apparent in some ways, at least on the depth chart, to Matt Corral. We'll see if that competition begins and what that looks like or his future. We're going to see a lot more transfers, especially after spring practice really gets going. But I think it's a good situation. It's a good coach. It's an SEC. Hopefully they can kind of restock the cupboard there. I know they're losing. They've lost a lot of talent in the NFL last couple of years. And so for them, they got to kind of reload and restock things. I also think one interesting part of this is how long is Lane Kiffin going to be at Ole Miss? We know that he pretty publicly put his name out there for other jobs and was kind of looking to get out of Oxford, it seemed like, in some ways. So we'll see how that affects Jaxson Dart's future. But for right now, I like the fit. I think it's a good natural fit. If he had gone to a place like Oklahoma, I know the goal is to stockpile talent. So if you're Brent Venables, if you're Jeff Lebby, it's a good idea to go after a guy like Jaxson Dart. You can never have too many good players. That's the way Alabama operates. That's the way Georgia operates, Ohio State, etc. That's how those top teams operate. They stock the cupboard. They stock behind it. If you look at a cupboard full of cups, they put layers and layers of their best cups, if you will. But that's how they do it. And so if you're Oklahoma, Oklahoma's done that to some extent. In a lot of positions, especially on offense. Well, now, it's the same thing for Jeff Lebby and also for Brent Venables. You want to get as many good players as you can, but I like the fact that we know it's going to be Dylan Gabriel. I like the fact that I know he's got a connection with the offensive coordinator, Jeff Lebby, that they shared when he was at UCF. I like the kind of the solidity there, the kind of known quantity that we know what we're going to get. A relationship's already been there, and we kind of build off that. And I also think for Oklahoma, who's been over so much upheaval, there is something to be said about having that assurance that we pretty much know who their guy is going to be at the quarterback spot as we go forward. So yeah, you like to stockpile as much talent as possible, but this isn't a situation where you're an OU fan and you think this kid shows Ole Miss over Oklahoma. Sure, he did in a way, but also it's not like Ole Miss is better than OU. It's just the situation there is a little bit easier for him to get a starting role. Trying to beat somebody out like Dylan Gabriel, who a guy who's got two pretty awesome seasons, at least two pretty awesome seasons of work under his belt. And this guy that's been around football for a while and has a pretty good handle, on just playing quarterback. I know he's in the group of five, but still playing quarterback at the Division I level and is kind of ready to make that next jump. He's had a lot of success at that G5 level. So once again, I think OU fans, it's fine. I think the school it hurts is BYU. They're having some quarterback upheaval. They have not had a consistent quarterback for the last couple of years. After Zach Wilson 1 year, move on the next year, mixture of guys this past season, and now they're trying to find a new quarterback moving forward too. So BYU might be the team that's most hurt by this, by not getting Jaxson Dart, but still things could play out for them and they could find somebody else in the portal. But once again, Jaxson Dart enrolling at Ole Miss, good fit, does not go to a Big 12 school. TCU, we heard they were in on him early, it sounded like maybe, but things really didn't coalesce for them as it comes to this. And, I think Max Duggan's fine. I do think Sonny Dykes is looking for a different quarterback potentially to, different stylistic quarterback to lead them moving forward, into the new Big 12, if you will, and as he takes over at TCU. All right, quick word from our sponsors, and then we'll get to Caleb Williams' Watch, which continues now. I'm not even sure what day it is, but it's continuing right now. But first, a word from our sponsors. Today's show is brought to you by BetOnline.ag. Go to betonline.ag today. They have odds for the Super Bowl, all kinds of prop bets, over-unders, all kinds of those things right now at betonline.ag. When you go over there, use the promo code Locked On. That's LOCKEDON, Locked On. You'll receive a 50% deposit bonus today. So if you deposit $100, they'll give you an extra 50 to play with today off the bat at betonline.ag. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. All right, Caleb Williams' Watch continues, as I mentioned before, and we are now at the point where the deadline was Friday. The deadline was Friday for USC, I think, to enroll and also be able to eligible for spring football. Now, let's see. I think this is here right here. It says Caleb Williams. This is a rumor right now. We're seeing Caleb Williams informs Wisconsin that he is out of the hunt. Wisconsin's not in the hunt. This comes from I'm trying to find on Rivals. It's like what's just happening right now. John McNamara over at Rivals. So if this is the case, all signs are pointing to USC. I believe there was a picture put up on Twitter a couple of days ago of Caleb Williams, like a name in the student directory at USC. Somebody had posted that, I think, but also a couple things, like, probably maybe could be him, right? But California names, Caleb seems like a pretty California name, right? It's kind of a new wave name that's coming. I know many people named Caleb. More than actually, I was thinking about this before the show. Like, I know more people named Caleb than I actually thought. So the idea that somebody else named Caleb Williams could be at USC could be totally possible. But also, if this news is coming in here, that we're, we believe it to be true, McNamara saying that, he has informed Paul Chryst that Wisconsin is out. All signs kind of point towards USC at this point in time. I think they just want to make as much as they can out of the announcement. But I really just think we're all kind of getting to a point where we're a bit tired of it. But this big piece of news, if this is to be true, that Caleb Williams has told Wisconsin that they're out of the running, then it just seems to be USC or bust. But once again, this tweet is coming from John McNamara, who covers Wisconsin for Rivals and Yahoo Sports. And once again, the tweet, unnecessary roughness from Barstool has it out. I'm trying to gather information, but it says Caleb Williams has informed Paul Chryst he is not coming to Wisconsin via McNamara Rivals. You guys can go check that tweet out. Follow Unnecessary Roughness on Twitter if you guys want to go see that. So yeah, once again, I was skeptical of the Wisconsin thing. I mean, I saw it. It felt like it was a potential possibility. I like the idea of him going somewhere else and learning a new offense. When you go to the NFL, that's going to better prepare you. By no means did he master Lincoln Riley's offense. That did not happen. But a chance to play, he did have some relative success in that offense. And now he has a chance to play in a different offense and have success in Wisconsin's offense. That possibility was interesting to me, but I still felt like USC was the one. And when I saw Mario Williams go, that felt like, I know Mario Williams committed to Lincoln Riley. Say, that's probably why, but that kind of felt like to me that was the nail in the coffin in this. And I felt like it was coming. It was just a matter of time. So, unless you have access to the student directory at USC and you can, verify that for sure. But I was working yesterday on SiriusXM and Barrett Sully and Andy Staples said this: do not tweet out the kid's email. Do not do that. That is not correct. It's 110% not what you want to do. But Caleb Williams' watch continues. But if this report is true, it sounds like USC once again is going to be the destination. All right, next piece of news that we have here, Derek Mason has been hired as the defensive coordinator at Oklahoma State, and boy, do I love this hire so much. I got to see Derek Mason up close and personal several times during my time at the University of Missouri. I always really respected the way that he went about his business. He is a very thoughtful individual. It seems like he and Brian Harsin had some philosophical differences on a variety of topics, it appears. And it seemed like that marriage was, not going to last very long. It seemed like the Brian Harsin and Auburn marriage might not happen for a much longer period of time. But now he is the defensive coordinator at Oklahoma State. He is going to be replacing, as we know, Jim Knowles going to Ohio State. And look, this conference lacks a lot of diversity at a lot of the coaching spots. And the only two African-American coordinators in this conference, both are at Oklahoma State. So look, I know like the Mike Gundy stuff last season was a bad look. I'm the belief it was a bad look. But in terms of a guy who actually action is what we all want, right? There's always people who are like, we're always striving for diversion and inclusivity and things like this. This might just be Mike Gundy hiring good coaches, but also at the same time, it's good to see more minority coaches in this conference. And they're not just getting hired because of minorities. They're both good coaches, right? Casey Dunn, who we mentioned it last week, but absolute hero, pulling AJ Ferrari, the Oklahoma State All-American wrestler, out of that vehicle that crashed. An absolutely, great act of heroism, of just being a good Samaritan as well. He is of African-American descent. And also Derek Mason, who we know is a good defensive mind. He's a good coach, but it's good to see, minorities. And it's also good to see somebody like Mike Gundy hiring minority coordinators at a place like that. And that is something that across the sport, I think we all know needs to be promoted. As a head coach, Derek Mason was 27 and 55, but that at Vanderbilt is not a very fair way to assess that. I mean, Vanderbilt's a tough place to win. I know James Franklin did have a couple of nice seasons, but I always thought Derek Mason was a good coach, and now his defensive mind, he will bring that. And he's been all over the place, man. I mean, he has coached from Mesa Community College to Weber State, Idaho State, Bucknell, Utah, St. Mary's, New Mexico State as a wide receivers coach, Ohio's wide receivers coach. Starts coaching defense permanently with the Vikings in 2007. He was an assistant defensive backs coach, then becomes the Stanford DBs coach in 2010. 2011, he becomes the associate head coach, co-defensive coordinator, defensive backs coach, becomes the DC in 12 and 13. Vanderbilt makes the hire. He's there from 14 to 20. He goes to Auburn in 2021, and now he is at Oklahoma State. So I think this is a exciting hire um, if you are a Oklahoma State fan. I know there was Joe Bob Clements talk, but also when this guy like Derek Mason becomes available, it's not really a type of guy you can turn down. It's a good guy culturally to have in the building. People always speak to his character. I think it's good to have people like that, and also we see the character of Casey Dunn last week too. So I think they're building something pretty good. And Mike Gundy just I was wrong for questioning him last offseason. I did, and I looked like an idiot for doing that. I was like, what is the ceiling here with Mike Gundy? This is supposed to be the best team they had in 2020, and it really fell way short, got killed by Oklahoma. But they came back the next year with what we thought was a worse team. He adapted, played to his team's strengths, and they end up, coming pretty close to, they were a bad spot away maybe from going undefeated in the regular season, and a bunch of plays inside the 5-yard line where they should have scored to becoming a Big 12 champion and potentially in the playoff. So he has done a great job rallying this thing. I think this is a really good turn. They got to rebuild that defense some because they're losing so many guys, but this is a good hire in my opinion. All right, quick more word from our sponsor. Today's show is brought to you by rockauto.com. Go to rockauto.com today to find the best prices for parts for your car or truck. They've got everything, guys. They got carpet, they got tail lights, tail pipes, upholstery, everything that you could need for your vehicle. You guys can find there and at an affordable price. Do not spend up to 30, 50, or even 100% more for the same parts at a chain store or a car dealership. For example, a Honda Odyssey fuel pump is $353 from a chain store, $216 at rockauto.com. So go to rockauto.com today, write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box. That way they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. That's rockauto.com. All right, so last thing here on the show today, we've got a couple Big 12 games coming up this evening. West Virginia travels to Baylor. TCU goes to OU. These two games are interesting. Now we saw that West Virginia lost their fifth straight game the other day against Arkansas. Baylor's only two losses have come at home, but they just lost to Alabama. We'll see if LJ Cryer goes in tonight's game, but I think they'll be angry. I think they get a big win here against West Virginia. And then TCU Oklahoma is a pretty interesting game to me because of Oklahoma just kind of needing to bounce back, continuing to get quality wins. TCU comes off against a really nice win against LSU, got back to full strength, but maybe not playing at full strength. So after TCU gets trounced by Texas last week, they return home to get a good win. And now they are able to see if they can turn around on the road and get a win here. But both these teams around that 500 mark in conference. Oklahoma needs this game. 3-6 in conference and 13-9 overall. We're going to start talking about a serious bubble team. I know TCU was recently on the bubble, and now let's see. I think Joe Lenardi, he's not updated it to this point, but last four buys, he had TCU right there. Last four in West Virginia was right there as well. For him, Oklahoma's racked up a bunch of good wins. I talked about this some yesterday on the recap show I did for the SEC Big 12 Challenge. Oklahoma's got a bunch of good wins, but they 3-6 in conference is where you start to begin to say, we might be creeping towards the wrong direction. So Lenardi has them as a 9 seed right now. Losing number one team in the country on the road should not hurt them too much. But then when you lose if you lose to TCU at home, then we start to talk about a team that once again is creeping towards the bubble and is going to have to make up some ground. So if you're OU, you look at the stretch of games that you have right now, you see these opportunities that you have. TCU at Oklahoma State, Texas Tech at home. 3 games that are winnable. You can win all those games. Texas Tech's going to be most difficult. But they have a stretch coming up here, and I'm going to count the Texas Tech game. So starting on the 9th of February. The 9th, they have Texas Tech. The 12th, they're at KU. The 15th, they're home for Texas. The 20th, the 19th, they're at Iowa State. The 22nd, they're at Texas Tech. So they've got a brutal stretch coming up right here. So beating teams like TCU, winning at Oklahoma State, or basically just going 2-1 in these next 3 games is absolutely a must in my opinion. You have to beat TCU is really a game you have to win because you don't know if you're going to go win Bedlam on the road, and then you play a really awesome Texas Tech team at home. So a whole lot of stuff coming up here for Oklahoma basketball they're going to have to deal with. I know we talked about a little Oklahoma football earlier in the show, but Oklahoma basketball has a lot to deal with coming up right here. Starts tonight, Oklahoma, TCU. That's the game I care about the most. West Virginia really just not doing it for me this year. I think Baylor takes care of business. All right, that will do it for today's show. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. It's at LO Big 12 for the show. You guys can follow me at Josh Neighbors _. Make sure you guys subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you guys subscribe or download whatever the hell it is on podcast platforms right now. Till next time, my friends, as always, stay safe.